The topic for today is the mystic form, specifically the spellcasting. A lot of people ask me what was the use of the mystic form. Before we get into the spellcasting aspect, let's talk about the mystic form. The mystic form is very useful to train you to understand how you fabricated your identity. Okay? Naturally, you constructed yourself an identity, and your soul uses your identity. Okay? Your soul just works with that. It naturally came to you, you don't understand it, you just were submitted to how life conditioned you, and you don't understand the principles inside creating your own identity or how you actually did it. It just happened. So the solution in this case is to provide to you a tool where you will fabricate yourself a new identity that will be a mask that you can put on and off as you will. And this will show you how you built your identity, because this is exactly how we do. We're going to create a mystic form, which is a new identity, a new mask, a new personality. And then we're going to take it off. And while you train putting on your identity, you manifest it, you create it, you want it through the mystic form. And then you dissolve it. Dissolving it does not destroy it, it just puts it back in a state of potential. It makes it available. It's not the destruction of your form, it's the dissolution. When you dissolve sugar in water, the sugar does not disappear. It's simply not crystallized anymore until you dry it out or until you have enough to recrystallize in the water. Okay? So dissolving your mystic form or your tools does not delete any of the efforts that you put so far in creating your form. It does not destroy your efforts. What it does is that it will put it back in a state of potential until you want to recrystallize it. And you get acquainted and you get used to this ability to crystallize and dissolve, manifest and dissolve this energy of the mystic form. The thing is, at one point you will dissolve your mystic form or take off the mask of the mystic form, and you will not put on the mask of the human. Okay? Usually at first when we take off the mystic form's mask, naturally the human mask just pops back in. The goal is to not become a human again. You just free yourself of any type of personality, and then you just exist until your human naturally brings you back into acting like a normal human. It is useful when you reach that point to put on your mystic form before you go speak to the people, speak to the world, before you go act. Unless your mystic form is about healing, don't put it in before a healing or a Reiki treatment. If your mystic form is about justice, law, correct action, you can put it when you go to management states, but don't put it before you're about to cook, or unless you want your cooking to be extremely rigid. Put your mystic form on when it is appropriate, when it can fit with the action you're going to perform. Okay? And if you're just going to watch a movie, don't put on your mystic form. Try to keep your mystic form for only those moments when you are going to do spiritual practices. Now, don't put your mystic form on if you only are going to do siddhi meditation, or your mystic form will be doing siddhi meditation. The goal in siddhi meditation is not to have identity at all. So the mystic form is not useful in the sense that it will not elevate you spiritually. It is not about elevating you. It is about training you how you densified yourself. Okay, and as you do it with the mystic form, you grasp it. You get a better idea. So if you do your mystic form just before your spiritual practices, your mystic form will be doing the spiritual practices, but remember that your goal is to get out of identity when you do spiritual practice. Okay? When you invoke your mystic form is when you're actually going to do something, when you're going to provoke an action or to act, such as prayer, dharani, when you're going to do a healing, if you have the healing processes in your mystic form. If your mystic form, you always put your mystic form before you do your Kujien and Majutsu training, for example. So when you're going to cast Kujikiri, your mystic form is a part of you that is trained in Kujikiri. Those who don't have the wisdom of mystic form, when they do kujikiri, it is their human identity that does kujikiri, but also it is the human identity that watches a movie, that argues with the lover about the budget, that throws away the trash, cleans up the floor, stuff like that. So this is why it's good to have a mystic form. It's a new identity, a new mask that you put on so that you can start acting in the world in a spiritual fashion, okay? As opposed to when you want to grow spiritually, you want to take off your mystic form, you want to take off your own human identity, you would just want to dissolve. So the first aspect of creating all these components of your mystic form and dissolving back again after your spiritual processes, what it trains you is it trains you on removing your identity, okay? And then it gives you the ability to put on a mask that is useful, because this new mask is not just a pellicula, it's not just a membrane covering your face, it's actually a system that you load in yourself, and this system is charged with all the abilities that you've trained in your mystic form. So it can be in your tools, but only just the fact that you spiritually train while you have your mystic form on, whatever you'll be doing will be efficient, okay? So I hope this answers a part of the use of the mystic form itself. Why do we do spellcasting? I wrote a nice phrase lately. A saint is someone who just observes God until it disappears into God, and it goes back to the collective consciousness of oneness. A mage, a spellcaster, is someone who wants to bring this divine expression into the world, and it cannot be brought into the world simply by sitting and not doing anything, okay? The gaze will have a natural radiance of God, but if you want a special effect, if you want a precise action, if you want a liberation, a healing, a prayer of freedom, a sense of justice, if you want to apply something, you need to condense the energies of God into a specific form, into a specific action. Now that is the use of Dharani, and that is also the use of spellcasting. Now we have tools in the mystic form that are tools based on something. So by the power of some God, there's a creation of that tool that is used for this or that virtue, okay? So I'll be taking, for example, my own mystic form by the power of the of some Arbatel forces. If you're advanced Kabbalist, you'll understand Arbatel. So by the power of Aratron and Phaleg, I manifest the sword of freedom, Afiezach, and I give it a Hebrew name, okay? This usually is quite simple. You overviewed this. I'm still going to say it again. By the power of something, there is some tool that does something, okay? So by the power of God, I manifest a cross of consciousness, Svastika Sanyam, for example, okay? So crosses of consciousness. If you would be in the Sanskrit approach of the mystic form, there's the Hebrew approach of the mystic form. You can also take any language that you associate to spirituality, but not your mundane language. So if you're an English-speaking person, you can use Japanese. If you're Japanese and you are very used to, very well acquainted to using kanji and Japanese in spirituality, you can still do that. But if you're a Japanese used to use Japanese language only as a mundane thing, you should try something else. So Sanskrit or Hebrew or Latin or any, maybe Tibetan, any language that fits your sense of sacredness. Of course, Hebrew and Sanskrit have an extra vibration, but for Majutsushis, for Kujikiri users, you would appreciate training your mystic form in the Japanese style, which is pretty good, which is efficient. Okay, so that was the major roundup of the mystic form. That is just to add a bit to the first mystic form video, because now we're going to go into spellcasting. Why would we spellcast? We would do such a thing so that we can bring something to someone else. It's an action, therefore there is karma. If there is karma, it means that you will have a shock in effect of that. If you bring blessings to people, regardless of the tools you use, human language, typical handshake, a spell, a prayer. Whatever you do that brings blessings or benefits to someone, you will receive some kind of benefit in your life. That's how it works. So I like to use my mystic form in terms of justice and protection at the karmic level. So, for example, I have a shield in my left hand, which is a shield of justice through natural forces. So natural forces, and that's not the trees and the branches and the rivers. Natural forces is also your hormonal system. It is your mindset. This is your peptides in your blood. It is your heartbeat and your breathe. So my shield will use natural forces, which is whatever it can have access in you to reflect to you whatever you project to me. So if someone projects to me blessings and praise, I might have the blessings, but they will be reflected to you also. You might as well just pray for the whole of humanity and you'll receive the blessings. But it's useful, a shield such as Behemoth's my shield of justice. Let's say someone hates me or is projecting anger on me. It will come to the shield, sometimes be slightly amplified, and go back to the person. And when it goes back to the origin, what it will do is it will amplify their own anger and turn it against them, okay? So that they have no choice to say, stop, I can't bear this suffering anymore, I have to stop. Which, in any case, is very useful. A lot of people have experienced this so far, and they found that being angry at someone else is a cause of suffering. And they knew this because whenever they got angry at someone, it became so heavy on them, they eventually had to stop. And it means it's a training tool also. So maybe it protects me. Yes, it does. It protects me from being disturbed by the background noise of people who don't want to assume their responsibility, especially in my role as a spiritual master. But it will help these people to notice how wonderful it is that they have a mind, how powerful their mind is if they have created so much distress in themselves. It means that they have the power to create so much more happiness if they master this tool. So that's the use of my passive shield. It's a very passive thing. Each one of your tools will have a passive effect. For me, the shield is simply to protect me at the karmic level. Although I am also, as a human, affected by the shield of my mystic form. Meaning that if, as a human, I do something, I amplify on myself the karmic consequences. I love that because it keeps me in check. It's my alarm system to make sure that I'm in a state of integrity. Okay. So everything is good so far? You get it? All right. Breathe. After some type of training, some level of training with the tools, having their own passive radiance for my sort of freedom to just make sure attachment don't take too much time, okay? Attachment won't linger too long, okay? If I have an attachment, a desire, some kind of yearning, I'll eventually just sit in meditation and this sword effect will just come and start to cut it, okay? Like the sword of Fudo Myo, Achalanata. So, another thing is the garment. We have a garment and two tools to start with. Sometimes people have more tools, but we have a garment, a clothing set. For me, it's an armor. It's an armor of integrity, okay, of splendor. It's an armor made of the Kabbalistic fear Chod, okay, and Chod is lower astral mechanics, if you want. So it just shields me all over, not reflecting, but it shields me from any type of negativity or very deep demonic impressions. For example, we all have something we love about the garment. For me, the garment is, because of my work, it was very useful when I walked in hell to keep my inner power always more intense with a positive pressure, so I always shine outside. And the armor is there in case I would lack such a positive pressure to shed light on the outside, and it would affect me. Whatever would be around me would affect me more. Okay, I'm not wearing my mystic form when I do speeches to large crowds. I want to be free of any kind of identity, and I just go all out. But the moment I come back as a human anymore, I have my mystic form, or I dissolve it, but it's still there. There's always the potential energy there. Okay, you don't lose all that. Now, let's talk about my third tool. Just to inspire you, I have a set of wings in my back, which are not the real wings, which are mystic form wings. Okay, the real wings are parts of the aura that go up and then around the egg and down. And when they're filled with wisdom, they're white or golden or silverish, very rarely, but sometimes bluish, sometimes greenish, but always very pale. And it goes like this in the back, so you are under the impression that someone would have wings, okay? But this is actually a coloration of the aura's egg, which is very, very present compared to the rest of the aura, and it seems to be like wings. Coming back to my mystic form, I have wings, okay? So I'm going to tell you all about the use of these, and you can transpose on your own creation, okay? So let's say that you have a tool, an active tool in your right hand, a passive tool in your left hand. They will all be active when you'll be doing spell casting, okay? There is a spell on each tool, a spell that is a target effect, okay? Let's say I invoke my sword, and I want to cut an attachment, okay? What I'll do actually is focus on a single target. I'm gonna pick just one right now, and I'll do the okay, it means set free, okay? Just set free. What you'll do, okay? I dissolve my sword, lefazer no lo nefesh, which is dissolved back into spirit. In Sanskrit, it's anuvilan tara kasha, and in Japanese, I forgot. You'd have to find it. I think Tara has something on this. So the use, probably like half of you have felt the effect anyway, because you're paying attention. The fact that I'm using my sword, which is an empowered tool, to set free. It does provoke freedom, and it's not about cutting away something from me to others. It is an effect of setting free. So if this setting free has to do with me and someone else as an attachment, it's useful. Sometimes it can even affect someone else just using the spell to cast it. So what you do, your first level spell with your active tool is just a word. You say its name, Afiezach, and then you'll say the word set free, or you'll say your English command, set free, le shachech. Okay, for example, which is a different way of saying it. And so you can use this to set free someone. In my case, this is the use, but it could be shine forth if you have a lantern. It could be glow up. It could be heal. It's a command. It's a command word, just one word. You'll say it in English. So you first say the name of the tool, then the English expression, then the Hebrew, Sanskrit, Japanese, or sacred mystic form type command. Okay, for Afiezach, set free, leshacher. Okay, and you give it a moment to act. Alright, some of you felt this, some of you didn't. It's okay. Okay, it's not meant to be area effect, and I'm trying to have some of you, only half of you, feel it. I use the Hebrew because it's everything about Kabbalah. if you use Sanskrit, try to go Sanskrit all the way. If you use Japanese, go Japanese all the way, and use Kujikiri. Okay, I would not be efficient in my mystic form to do Kujikiri or Majutsu in the Oriental fashion, because I chose Kabbalah as my main set. This mystic form, this identity I built, is made for Kabbalah. For the same tool, there's an area effect, okay, that I will not explain in detail. Well, I could. Yeah, I could. In this case, I'm gonna need my sheet, because there's a lot of Hebrew phrases in there, okay? The area effect, for example, this sword, I will push it in the ground, and I will use the steadfast energy of the earth, the production of not being affected by other, and the energy of the earth that generates, combined with the sword of Yezach in the ground, to bring forth the combination of those energy and produce what I call a well of freedom. So just waves of light and thousands of swords that just go whoom around, cutting away all attachments in an area. So I usually do it where I am localized, but I could target someone else. It would just have an area effect to start to detach everything at every level. So it does provoke a sense of mourning for someone who is not used to that. So I won't be too heavy on this demonstration, okay? So I just take it. Well of freedom. And I am affected, and those who pay attention to me a bit also. And Vajra lo nefesh, dissolving the soul, okay? So what I said in Hebrew is Afieza and the earth, pour forth and beyond the well of freedom. And I practiced this spell over and over and over, usually in English, and recently I've translated everything in Hebrew. And this produced this well of freedom. So with the same tool, I have one spell which is target, a single target, and one tool which is area effect that will just affect an area, whether there's people there or not. And I only select the center of the area of effect, and I compose in my mind what would be the effect magnitude, okay? And then I cast my second level spell. First level spell is target, second level spell is area effect. So for each tool, you will select yourself a specific one-time use spell that you go, boom, do something, and you command. You say the English command and the spiritual language command. Then you will select a second level spell made of 2, 3, or 4 phrases. I like 3 phrases because it has nothing to do with level 2 using 2 phrases. It has to do with putting more energy into the spell casting to provoke the final effect. So when I say well of freedom at the end, the well just comes up and flows away and floats, and people are affected by this energy of attachment is just cutting everywhere, okay? So far, please confirm to me to the chat that you are following. Alright, thank you. So, the use of that, you saw me teach often about non-attachment, and for me, using the mystic form, the spell of non-attachment, even if I've not charged, well, I did charge my mystic form. Let's say I have no form, okay, or I'm a human identity, okay. Yes, and you felt the effect, Karuna. Yes, thank you. I felt it too. Wow. So let's say I'm just having a normal human discussion, okay. I don't have to go through the entire bringing up of my mystic form if I have charged the spell simply by saying Afiezach. And I cut, and it works. Okay, so I didn't even say Afieza, set free, and the word, just say Afieza leshacher. It just poof, just bringing the energy to take into effect. And when you're acquainted, you can just keep silent, take a breath in, summoning the tool. Let's say for me Afieza, and the breath out. say in the Breda I just taught le shaher, which is set free, and the gaze, where I gaze or where I focus, there will be the potential energy that I say is always there will kind of go there to work. It's not as efficient as if you have reactivated your form, reloaded the software of the form, invoked each of the tools, and then you go and you start spell casting. So when you're doing organized spell casting in a ritual, you take your time and you charge everything and you reload all your components one after the other. And once you're fully charged, you declare the spell completely and you make the gesture, and whatever you do physically something and you say with words aloud. But when you're in public and it's not appropriate to just breathe and you pop something, okay? You just do it. And there will be an effect if you've got practice. Okay, so it's very useful when you just want to come back to yourself, and from this state of self do an immediate effect. Charging your spells in the long and appropriate manner will give you access to your spells in an instant. If you casted your spell 1, 2, 3 times, you'll have to recharge. Okay, you don't have to recreate the spell is created, and the tool, it does not deplete. The tool is permanent until you destroy it or let it go for 100 years or so. So the tools are permanent, but the spells need to be recharged in potential in meditation, and when you cast them they use up. Okay, and then all you have is the general energy you have. Okay, let's talk about charging. When you charge your spells, you first have to create and charge your mystic form, create and charge your mystic tools. And for one tool, you create and charge a spell. The spell will be depleted over time. It will naturally grow back up, but it will be depleted over time if you use it a lot, okay? So what you have to do in some meditation is reload your entire mystic form and tools, and meditate, contemplate on the effect of the spell accumulating in you. Okay, so and this accumulation of potential in your tools is what does the natural radiance when you're in the dissolved state, when your form is just in le fazer anuvil in tarakasha, the fazer lo nefesh. When you're just in potential, the normal effect of just being there is the fact that you do have these energies in you. Okay? If you give them purpose, if you declare the command, if you give the effect, it will act, and after a few times you'll be depleted of that spell. Okay? Like when you do a lot of healing with 5 elements and you never charge back, eventually your own elemental charge, you feel it go away. Okay? So you have to just bring yourself back into these elements. Okay? Same thing with the area effect spells. You should be meditating 5 minutes. It's not an awful lot. It's not a big deal. Once you created your spell and you know about it, you meditate 5 minutes every day for a few days when you first create your spell, and you practice casting it and you recharge, and you practice casting it and recharge. And when you're done, you're good enough with just the practice. You can stop casting every day. Okay. You simply contemplate your spell, it recharges, and then you have it in potential. If you don't use it for 2 weeks, it's going to still be there. Eventually it might deplete, but if you're doing so much spiritual work, probably not. Okay, if you do a lot of mantras, contemplation, meditation, one of the things that will deplete your spell is integration that you don't do to the end. Okay, so if you do integration and you don't fill yourself back up, your potential will go and fill this. Okay, meaning that you will lose the potential to cast a spell, but instead of putting joy in your empty area, you will put justice, compassion, or healing, or whatever is your potential energy. So there's a use there in the mystic form that it also serves as a battery for whatever the purposes you are meant to have in your mystic form. For me, it will be justice, integrity, light, karma, nature, freedom, this kind of stuff. Okay. So, first level spell, very useful. You have 1 level spell per tool. Your garment have only a personal effects spell. It's a state of being, and it's not a spell. The spell is with your tools. Okay. There's one person I know. What's her name? Akashatai. What's her name? Sandra. She has 3 tools, one in each end and one necklace with a blue topaz here on the throat. It's cool. She uses these spells. My wings, although are attached to me, have one spell which is shed light. Okay, and it just rages, and it glows up in light, and it helps bring the wisdom into a place. Okay, it's a blessing. It will not purify negativity. It will not. It's not that kind of spell. It's the kind of spell that sheds light. So strong enough densities will not flee away, but at least people will feel the light, that there's something glowing in there. Okay, and there's also the fact that they can come around and give an extra shielding of light just for a moment. Okay, it also beat up. That's the area effect. Beat up to produce the wind of wisdom. Okay, to produce more convection with the air element. So you have the radiance of light, the fire element, and the air element that are there. I don't use these. I use Och and Full, which are 2 Arbatel spirits to charge my wings. Okay, so they just glow and produce an effect in the wisdom plane and the chi plane, the life force plane, and stirs up the energy so that it will move. Okay, that's the use of mind form. So the more I speak about mind form to give you examples, the more you will understand how to apply it with yours. Okay, so first level spell target, second level spell area. Okay, when you have charge 1 level and 2nd level spell for all your tools, then you can do 1 single 3rd level spell, which will be divine effect. Which will be the divine level spell, that you put all that you have into it, that it takes 1 minute to cast, that it's very well developed spell, that you use all of your tools at once. They all their energies just combine, your entire form, all the tools, even the garment, everything just goes into one very large mass area effect, very intense effect. Okay. For me, it's very useful when I go to deeper planes, such as when I walk in hell to help people come out of it, to just give a big beating to the entire energy environment of someone. If someone is so stuck with energies, and the parents are stuck with these energies, and the friends and the friends that are clinging into this person to bring them back to hell, into their world, the bad friends, they're not bad friends, but the friends that have an influence of keeping us into the miasma of egocentric self-copulation and stuff like that, the energy of wanting to just regenerate our own drama and density. Sometimes we have a lot of those, and for me it's divine justice. Okay, the 3rd level spell is divine justice. It will just bring all the karmic issues to be resolved. It means that it will send someone to hell for a moment, and it will help burn away whatever the stuff. Okay, so I invoke in this case Hallelujah, Eloah Vedahat Shaddai El Chai Adonai Melech Elohim Tzebaot Yahweh Tzebaot. And I like to do it in some kind of cross, so I do Alleluia, Eloah Vedahat Shaddai El Chai Yahweh Tzebaot Elohim Tzebaot Tzedek Elohim. Okay, I'm gonna read those because I recently have it all in Hebrew. Usually it was divine justice, reveal the truth, the spiritual and natural forces imposes the divine will of divine justice. Okay, so now I go Tzedek Eloi, Legalad HaChemet, Kochot Rona Yevatihim, Kofer Retzonach Eloi, Tzedek Eloi, Tzedek Eloi, Tzedek Eloi. Amen. Okay, so I just took all of you, the 12 something of you, and just went like this. Okay, so that divine justice will would struck you, okay? But it's an effect dissolved a lot, and a lot of you, I think everyone here has done lots of integration. Swaprema, you'll just be disturbed lightly by this. Rashidva, you'll be affected just a bit, okay? Don't bitch when stuff go wrong tonight. Just look at yourself, alright? For everyone else, it was just a little wave and you're not affected that much, or not at all. Okay, so that's the divine justice, okay? When there's an injustice, and by the way, divine justice has nothing to do with if you did something good or wrong. It has to do with whatever karma, checking that confirms, okay? Whatever goes wrong in your life that is not set straight, it will start to bind natural forces so that it comes back into a state of integrity, okay? So this is why I go like this, human hand, up, left, and then divine justice, bang. Okay, like I show it like this so that you can see it. Usually I go like this, amen, and I let go. Okay, and then I contemplate. Okay, it just goes. Okay, it's just very hot for now, but fine. Okay, swaprema. Be at peace. Okay, tonight breathe, drink a lot of water, and look at your own reaction. Okay, it's good for you. This kind of spell is useful because I bring all of my components. Okay, I did it before. I didn't do in this spellcasting because I didn't want you to go to hell. I wanted you just to feel the effect. I didn't summon my tools. I'm gonna stop now. Okay, I have my names of my tools. I won't invoke all of them because I don't want to have such a powerful effect on you. You do feel right now the effect of my spell casting as I do it. It does bring you something. All right. Okay. Okay. So let's refresh. First, we charge the form. I'm just going to change this little setting like this. Thank you for your patience. You will contemplate the forces that you invoke when you do your form. Okay. Now every one of you will load your mystic form. Okay. You'll follow step by step. First is a contemplation of the general forces you're gonna invoke. For example, I like to say Alleluia, Havra Hadavra, Abegida Hevazachete Yoka Lamenusa Hofetza Koreshi. So that's not even creation of my form, it's just invocation of a few concepts, principles that will work. Then there's a declaration of the form. By the Creator name, Spirit creates the form of severe justice. Gevurat Sedek. And I have my mystic form loaded. Now you load yours. Beshem Boreya Nefesh Baratsura Shel Gevurat Sedek. Now that you have charged, loaded, you choose if you load your garment, then your first tool, then your second tool. Or, in my case, I charge the active tool, the passive tool, the other tool that I have, then the garment. I'm going to do 4. If you have only 1 garment and 2 tools, just charge them and add the 4th. Just contemplate yourself, okay? So, first item. I give an example with me and you do your own. Aratron faleg form the sword of freedom. Aratron faleg yosrim et zaina cherut afyezach. Okay, I see you guys starting to light up. Second tool or garment, second item. Bethor Hagit form the shield of justice. Bethor Hagit Yotzrim het magin tzedek behiematz. load your third item. Och voel form the wings of light. Och voel je trimet kan för jou rim of fiekaha. Spread, shed light. Convect. For those who have it, fourth item, Ophiel form the arm of splendor of your Yotzer Chirion Nahod or Yeshach. Gevura Tzedek. Repeat slowly the name of your form. Gevura Tzedek. Gevura Tzedek. Gevura Tzedek. Now you will notice something immediately. Go back inside you to the sense of pure soul, of self. Put your attention inside you. And you'll notice that you are not your mystic form, you have it. You'll feel your mystic form around the core of what you are, but it is not what you are. It is something that you have. It's a new body, a body of light. It affects your chi level, so dense it is, it affects your life body. It even affects your physical body by radiance. But what you are is Paramatma, it is the soul, the true soul, the highest point of your individuality. So you know that you are self and you have the mystic form. Breathe. Now you will call forth your mystic form name and each tool after the other, and you will declare dissolve back into spirit. Anuvili Antarakasha or Lefazel no Nefesh. If it's Japanese, say it in English and we'll find out soon enough. We'll have a translator on that, okay? For me, Gevura Tzedek, Afiezach, Behiemats, Oyekach, Oyeshach, Lefazer lo nefesh. Amen. And I'll let the form just dissolve back into potential. Okay, so you took all of your aspects and dissolved them back into potential. They're still there, but they lost this density, this tangibility that you used to feel on your energy body, okay? So we brought back into crystallization your mystic form and dissolved it back. Now we're just gonna take one thing. By summoning only the name of your mystic form. And you will say, so be it. For example, Gevura Tzedek, Amen. When you're in Hebrew, you say the mystic form name, Amen. In Sanskrit, you say the mystic form name, Om Tat Sat. That is truth. Om Tat Sat is divinely, that is truth. Okay, it is so. And Amen means certainly it is so. It is acknowledged to be so. Okay. Again, in Japanese, if you're used to Japanese, just say, so be it. Okay? So, Gevura Tzedek, Amen. And you breathe and you bring it back. You see, your tools won't be there so powerfully, but you have the feeling of bringing back your mystic form. Okay? Just keep it there. Your tools are still in potential, but the mystic form is there. Okay? And slowly I'm starting to feel the tool just coming back into truth. Don't push it, don't stop it, just let it be, okay? Now, even though you don't already have the Hebrew, Japanese, or Sanskrit word for your first tool's declaration, choose a spell for your first tool, okay? We'll say the active tool. Okay, for me it's set free with the Afiezach. Okay? So think about it. What would you like to have as a spell? That you target someone, target can be yourself, can be someone else, and you say set free, you say heal, you say enlighten, understand. If you look at someone, you say understanding or understand, and you can cast a spell of provoking understanding into someone else. Okay, that's an example. Afyezach leshacher. Afyezach lefazer lo nefesh. Okay, I casted the word, then I said go back to spirit, go back to potential. Okay. Now, with or without the English verb, the Sanskrit or Hebrew or Japanese verb or whatever else language you like, you will target me. And just name of your tool, bang, target me, and call the command. Even if I don't seem to need the thing you can bless someone with, just do it. Leshake. Okay, so I'm turning back this energy to you. I just wanted to validate, yes, you have been accumulating a spell. Okay, cool. Now I'm not going to resist. Cast. Go ahead. Affect me. Ooh. I'm all buzzing. I'm gonna keep that. The wonders of integration. Alright. You understand this? You felt it? You got something? Okay. Now everyone will be selecting Swaprema. Swaprema is Mary Jane. So you look at the chat, if you're there, you will target Swaprema. It usually is a spell that is beneficial, so you go Afiezach Leshacher. Amen. Lefazer lo nefesh. Okay. Now everyone, you will be selecting Ganagagni. Her name is Asun Esteves Ganagagni. Okay. Ganagagni. Afiezach Lechshachech. Lefazer lo nefesh. Okay. Yes, it is very soothing, Swaprema, because what they did is you got a ton of healers like this, healing, sense of well-being, justice, healing, understanding, faith, soothing, yeah, stuff like that, effects like those. So, what's your experience, Ganagni? Can you type it? Okay, let's continue then. You will select yourself a level 1 spell for each tool. Not your garment. Your garment is just there. If you want to have a spell on your garment, it's okay, but it will be just to bring you back into a state of being, which is the garment itself. Okay. I know Absagni is the state of will of God, so just go into will of God. And she goes back into humility bowing to the great will of God, which is her garment. Okay, that's also a great protection, because whatever negativity or demon goes close to her when she has a mystic form, and they feel that there is the will of God in there. I also noticed that there are men around Absagni that feel integrity, intensity of being, okay, and the fear of being caught doing a nasty thing, okay. So that's because there's a will of God gazing at them. Okay. Kadani just posted a comment. Lots of energy running from your brain, vertebrae, column, open heart, of course. Compassion. Yeah, Vajrapani, thank you. Very wise spell. Okay, breathe. That part is covered. Okay, the part of selecting a spell, level 1, localize target area, target. Level 2 spell, a few phrases. I like 3 phrases, but there's no rule. To give it your best and put yourself in the state of being and do an area effect that will be arranged around your target. Let's say my second level spell, when I cast it, is not reflect. It's to put a bubble around someone. Sometimes the bubble is around me, but I can put a bubble around someone that will have the general effect of reflecting everything that comes to them for a while. Okay, so it's very good. Once you've translated the command word, you don't have to translate the entire phrase of conjuration when you have big phrases for the second level spells. You only need to declare in English and then have the name of the spell. Like for me, it's Well of Freedom or Sphere of Reflection, Sphere of Justice. What's the name? Well of Freedom, Sphere of Justice. Yeah. Beyamatz and Divine Will protect the righteous through the Sphere of Justice. Magal Tzedek. So that's the way to go about with a spell. Think about your third level spell only when you're done with your first and second level spell. Okay? Your third level spell will be invoking your form. So Gevura Tzedek, Afyeza, Beyamatz, Hoyekacha, Ofsheka. And you start casting your spell with a few phrases, dang, 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 dang. You just throw a lot, Amen. And then the Fazal Non Nefesh, you just dissolve everything. An interesting part of the mystic form is the great form. I will be teaching this at another time. The great form is when you're done charging your first, second spell for all your tools, maybe a first level spell or a localized spell with your garment, and you did charge and practice and apply in real life situation your third level spell, your divine level spell, invoking God for its divine power into something, okay? Of course, try to pick yourself a divine spell that you do have opportunity to practice. For me, Divine Justice, I had tons of opportunities. I just did it to a lot of people, regardless if they gave me permission or not. If they had affected me in some way, I had the right to affect them. And I did not control what was going to happen. I just summoned Divine Justice to bring their life to more happiness and righteousness and well-being. So yeah, sometimes there was karma, but that's life. Once you're done with all that, there's a great form. The great form is something you can start thinking about right away. Your mystic form has to be humanoid because we really want your ego and your mind to understand how you produce yourself a new identity. Okay. Once you know how to do that, the great form is always there, always active. The great form is a big mythological animal type creature. We don't want it to be humanoid, except exceptions like Tara Bejaye likes to have a big Shantilokatara a big, immense, 150 feet tall, 8-armed Tara, with lots of power and everything. Some of you met my dragon. My dragon is an entity that exists on its own. I can wear it, or I can ride it, I can become it, because it still is a great mystic form. It's something I can go into and see from its eyes, travel around, and it is there. And the constitution, the composition of your great form has to be as noble as possible. I consider a dragon to be noble, okay? And your mystic, your great form will have one spell. It is the great spell of your great mystic form, okay? And the great spell that you cast will be one intense effect that will be the equivalent of a level 3 divine spell. And this one will grow with your experience, okay? It has no limit, okay? The great spell of my great form is a hurricane of non-attachment, okay? So when I empower the great form, okay, let's go step by step. First, you charge your entire mystic form. You charge your tools, and once you've done that, you summon your form to go back into potential. So you densify, redissolve, okay? The goal is to reactivate as much of this potential energy back there. And now this potential energy of your mystic form will go into the great form. So for me, it's Gevurah Tzedek transform into the great form of the Diamond Dragon King, okay? So Gevurah Tzedek, Hafol Mud Gadol Shel Melech Drakon Yaholom. And the dragon is re-densified. It's not in potential anymore. The dragon came back. Now the dragon is made of all the tools and all the garments and everything, okay? So you can have your mystic form and your great form roaming around you. Or you can completely dissolve into your great form and become that, one after the other or both, okay? You play with this substance. It will just take the shape you want. So when you've created your great form, you've defined it, you have a drawing of it, you named it, you have a phrase to invoke it, then you can work on the spell. For example, infinite light, primordial swirls, lightning surges, diamond dust spikes, adamant blades swirling, Diamond Dragon King blows the non-attachment hurricane. Hain Safao Reshita Galgalim Nachsholim Bazak Yetzol Havak Yaholohim Lechavim Shilim Melek Drakona Yaholom Linchom Sufalo Zika. And this will affect the video when you rewatch it. Amen. And eventually the dragon reaches the out breath to its level. Its breathing is not about the lungs, its breathing is about the potential energy accumulated. And the dragon just swirls into this. And it multi-level and multi-plane swirls so that you can all feel my dragon around you somewhere. Okay? Because it doesn't need to be localized. It's one dragon, but its energy, its consciousness is like everywhere. It's a great form, so it multiplies its consciousness, has nothing to do with locality, does not have to be binded to a specific location unless you want it. That kind of thing, okay? So the great form, you don't dissolve it. You just come back to yourself, okay? It'll run around, okay? You can dissolve it if you want. Usually you just keep it there around you, okay? The great form is not necessarily you doing that. It's something that is autonomous. It will become what the mages call a familiar, what the spellcaster call a familiar spirit. Sometimes they put it into an animal. You have the typical mage with a bird on the shoulder, or the cat little black cat that the mage has, and the cat has these deep eyes, and it's a familiar spirit that you you create the form and you put it into an animal. But I like the great form type where you will not bind it to an animal, where it cannot fit into an animal, but it's immense. 100, 200 feet, it's big. Well, I know Absagni's form is only like 10 to 15 feet. It's not that big, but it's very powerfully condensed. And it's all the elements that are condensed. For her, she took a chimera, and all the elements are condensed into a single being. For me, it's the Ein Sof Aor Rasheta Galgalim that are the base of my dragon, which is the infinite light and the primordial swirls of energy that condense into diamond, into the Vajra experience that I really like, Yaholoim, and that's that. Yeah, that's with the great form. So that was a nice overview of every aspect of you charge your form to train you into creating and dissolving your new identity that will be used for acting in the world. If you do meditation process, integration or something that has to do with dissolving back into the godness, into oneness, when it has to do with expansion of consciousness, don't use your mystic form. But whenever you want to have an effect, 5 elements, you want to have an effect in your body and in the world, dharanis, spells, Kujikiri, Majutsu, Kujien. Well, when you do Kujien, just Kujien alone, the goal is not to have an identity. So you can just do Kujien alone. But if your Kujien is in the optic of doing Kujikiri and Majutsu, then using your mystic form will just add more power, because you will be living and acting on these planes. The mystic form, like you saw in the other video, acts from just a bit on the vital plane, but mostly in the emotional and mental plane, which is the astral effects, and it will have an effect in the soul level at the plane of wisdom. But it can extend with your power for your mystic form to go up to the karmic plane and down into the physical plane. Your consciousness, fourth plane, cannot possibly be affected by the identity, because the only individuality that there is at the fourth plane of consciousness is your own soul, which cannot be affected by any kind of identity or mystic form. Okay? Charging your mystic form, knowing the words in Sanskrit, which can come later, no problem. You can declare everything in Sanskrit, in English or in your mother language, and then you declare the English name, and then the Sanskrit, Hebrew, or Japanese name, the spiritual name. Then you do the same with the spells. The spells is for a first level spell, you just invoke the tool and one verb. If you want to do the verb in English and then in your spiritual language, you can. If you want to invoke the tool, then just the verb in the spiritual language, it's okay. The goal is that you're going to do it a few times, let's say 10 times in a row, for 3-4 days, just to get the hang of casting the spell. Okay, so you define it and you build it by practicing it. Once you've practiced it and you feel that you do have the effect, you move on to the other spell. So 1 level 1 spell and 1 level 2 spell for each of your tools will take you 2-3 days per spell. Okay, and after a while you have all these spells available. If you don't practice your spells, you'll forget them. They won't lose their power, you'll just forget them. So once in a while, just redo all your spells on yourself if you want, on someone that you love if they need the help. It's useful. Practicing your spell casting with your mystic form will make, let's say, the Yubo in even more powerful if you are practicing the Yubo in spell casting. Any type of Kabbalah and Majutsu action will be more powerful if you practice with your own little spells. Because your own spells, through your own spells, you get used to the idea of I am producing an effect in the world, okay? You can use the Dharanis if you want. The Dharanis should not be binded into a mystic form. The Dharanis should be just charged per se as they are and be used by your soul directly, okay? If you want to have a powerful effect, and at one point you load your mystic form, you wear your mystic form, you become it, and from the mystic form you do a Dharani chant, it's wonderful, but don't make the Dharani enslaved to your mystic form. That doesn't make sense, okay? The big Dharanis I speak, because Dharani is a spell, okay? Dharani means a spell. The big Dharanis that are found in Buddhism and Hinduism should not be bounded to the mystic form, but your own spells should, of course. That's a goal. So another step would be your third level spell once you're done charging all of them, and then start thinking about your great form. Your great form will then be empowered, and once your great form is empowered, you will have a great spell, which is just one, which is a very large area effect spell or a multiplane in consciousness effect. You can make it egocentric in the sense you're the sole goal of your great form would be to protect you and only you. But I recommend that you have a form that will just have an all-out effect that will affect everyone in the sense of very high spirituality. Let me compare my great spell to my third level spell of the mystic form, the normal human level mystic form. My third spell, divine level form, is my third level spell is divine justice. It targets someone to bring divine justice into his life, and it will touch all aspects of his life. The great spell of my great mystic form of the Dragon of Diamond is an immense swirling of energies of consciousness, detaching and blowing on your ego to let go of the density. Okay, and it is through this. Well, there's another thing after the great form. You create your own temple and then your own little pocket world. Okay, it's step by step. So that's through practicing these levels of experiences that, let's say, in the last big boot camp, I was able to bring a part of my world in a reality, in human reality. So people really felt the energy completely different in the room that we were as when they just got out. And when they got back in, it was like hitting a wall of this power because there was a swirling hurricane permanently, okay? So you start with the mystic form, practice that. If you doubt of the usefulness, well, just motivate yourself that it's through this process that you'll create yourself a familiar spirit or a big mystic form, which will be made of your consciousness, but it'll be autonomous acting. And from that you create your temple, a place in consciousness where you and other people can meet, and then you'll create your pocket world, usually available for those who are on the bridge of self-realization and or tent boomy people. Okay, it will become available to you. Through this wisdom, you'll learn how to let go of any type of physical embodiment. Meaning that if you know how to create your Buddha body, that's not mystic form. That has nothing to do with mystic form. If you create yourself a Buddha body using the mystic form wisdom you may, just thinking about it, it won't work. Buddha body is a body that is made of Buddhahood, of Dharma, of consciousness. So that when you die, you still have a body, so you don't need to reincarnate, and this is called self-realization. It's when you are so much absorbed in consciousness, you can exist only in consciousness, and you have a body made only of pure consciousness, and that's the Buddha body, okay? And that, well, is not any technique that I can show you right now. It's a technique that can be understood through contemplation and practice. So practice what your human can understand. Practice the mystic form. Practice the spells and see the usefulness. There's something about the spells that make them wonderful in the sense that it will bring positive karma to your life. Okay? It will bring energy back into you. It will bring blessings to your environment. It will be a way to bring blessings to people around you. And in this fashion, you will be able to bring compassion and bring help people all around you through consciously casting or through just the radiance of your spells, your tools, your mystic form charge. It's very useful. It's very, very, very useful. Even those who don't want to help others, even those who don't want to become priests, who don't want to serve humanity, to have this and just sometimes think about someone else than you and be out of egocentrism and sharing the wisdom, sharing the Word of God, sharing the consciousness, simply using your mystic form, your mystic power. That is very useful. Let's breathe for a moment. That is my son that we hear on the videotape now. Pouvez-vous monter? Merci. Oh, that son of a Buddha. So technically he's also son of a bitch. Through the principles of oneness. Alright. I want to teach you another technique, but just at this moment tons of disturbances came. And I think I'm going to let you go on this one. I'm going to let you absorb this, start the thing step by step. I told you the entire story to inspire you, but you'll have to go step by step just to figure it out, okay? Tonight I will redo this class. It will not be in the same approach. Tonight I'll be showing the Atta sphere, something that accelerates the condensation of creative forces, something that empowers you, empowers your mystic form. It's like an extra battery to your mystic form. It's a technique very useful to grow in power, okay? Please practice in putting on and removing your mystic form at least once every day for the few following days, just so that you'll gain the awareness on how you put a mask and take it off, and put a mask and take it off, and at one point when you take off your mystic form, your human mask won't pop in. You'll just be in a state of self, okay? And that's the goal. The goal is to show you that you do put on your human mask when you come out of meditation. You should try not to do that. Just stay focused in divinity and divine self, and then become human when it is required. Don't fight it, okay? Don't fight becoming human, okay? Just go back to whatever you have to do. It was very fun talking to you. I love you all, and for most of you, see you again tonight.